She crawled under the biker's table, trembling, begging him not to tell. Seconds later, her billionaire stepfather stormed in with bodyguards, demanding her back. What the bikers found in her backpack would bring an empire to its knees. And the little girl who came for shelter became the one thing they'd protect at any cost. The coffee in Ryder Kane's mug went cold the moment he heard the bell above the diner door slam open like a gunshot. He didn't look up right away. After 20 years leading the Steelhawks Motorcycle Club, he'd learned to read trouble by sound alone. This wasn't the lazy jingle of a tired trucker or the cheerful chime of a regular. This was panic. Through the corner of his eye, he watched a small shadow dart past the counter, too quick, too low to be an adult. The figure moved like a hunted animal, all sharp angles and desperate speed. Then she was under his table. Ryder's boots had just enough space between them and the checkered floor for a child to squeeze through. He felt tiny fingers grip his ankle, and a voice, barely a whisper, trembled up at him. "Please don't tell him I'm here." Across the table, Max stopped mid-bite of his burger. Bull, the largest of their crew, straightened in his seat. All 5 hawks at the table went still, their laughter dying in the neon-lit air. Ryder slowly lowered his hand beneath the table, a small palm pressed against his, ice-cold and shaking. "Easy now," he murmured, loud enough for his crew but soft enough to soothe. "Nobody's telling anybody nothing." That's when the headlights swept across the diner windows. A black Aston Martin, the kind that cost more than most people made in 5 years, pulled into the parking lot with the aggressive precision of a predator cornering prey. The engine purred to silence. 3 seconds later, the door opened. Marcus Vorn didn't walk into rooms. He claimed them. He was tall, sharp-suited, with silver temples that looked professionally styled even at this hour. 2 bodyguards flanked him, earpieces visible, hands resting near their waistbands. The diner, which had been humming with late-night conversation, went quiet. "Good evening." Vorn's voice was smooth, the kind of smooth that came from boardrooms and campaign dinners. His eyes swept the room like searchlights. "I'm looking for my daughter. 10 years old, dark hair, probably frightened. She ran away from our car a few miles back." The waitress behind the counter, Sally, who'd been serving Ryder's crew for a decade, wiped her hands on her apron. "Haven't seen any kids tonight, mister." "Stepdaughter," Vorn corrected, pulling out his phone. He showed a photo to Sally, then to a couple in the corner booth. "Lena, she's confused. Not well. I need to get her home safely." Under the table, those tiny fingers squeezed Ryder's hand tighter. Something cold settled in Ryder's chest. He'd seen enough liars in his life to know one when he heard them. The words were right, but the tone was wrong. Too controlled. Too rehearsed. Vorn's gaze swept toward the Hawks table. Ryder took a slow sip of his cold coffee, meeting those calculating eyes without flinching. Around him, his crew radiated the kind of calm that came before storms. Bull cracked his knuckles. Mac leaned back, arms crossed over his Steelhawks vest. "You boys see a little girl come through here?" Vorn asked, stepping closer. "Been here an hour," Ryder said evenly. "Seen a lot of coffee. No kids." One of the bodyguards whispered something in Vorn's ear. The billionaire's jaw tightened. "She's sick," Vorn said, and now there was an edge beneath the polish. "She has a medical condition. Without her medication, she could." "Could what?" Bull interrupted, his voice a low rumble. "Drop dead, right in front of us." Vorn's eyes flashed. "I don't appreciate your tone. And I don't appreciate suits rolling up on my dinner," Bull shot back. Ryder raised a hand, silencing his friend. "If we see a lost kid, we'll call it in." That good enough? The air between them could have caught fire. Vorn studied Ryder for a long moment, and Ryder understood he was being measured. Weight, threat, usefulness. Whatever calculation Vorn was running, he must not have liked the odds. "I'll be at the Grandview Hotel," Vorn finally said, pulling a business card from his pocket and placing it on the table. "Vorn Tech Industries. When you find her, there's a $10,000 reward." He turned to leave, then paused. "And, gentlemen," interfering with a parent's rights, is a serious crime. I'd hate for this to become complicated. The threat hung in the air like smoke. When the Aston Martin's taillights finally disappeared down the highway, the diner released its held breath. Ryder pushed a chair back carefully and looked down. Two brown eyes stared up at him from the shadows, wide, terrified, but also sharp. Smart eyes, eyes that had seen too much. "He's gone," Ryder said quietly. The girl didn't move. "Come on out, little one. You're safe now." Slowly, like a fox leaving its den, she crawled out. Her jeans were torn at the knees, her pink backpack covered in dust. She couldn't have weighed more than 70 pounds, soaking wet. But when she stood, she didn't cry. She just looked at Ryder with an unsettling calm. "Thank you for lying," she said. The Hawks exchanged glances. "Wasn't a lie," Max said carefully. "We didn't see you come in." Ryder's boots were in the way. The smallest smile tugged at her lips, a smile far too knowing for a 10-year-old. "My name's Lena," she said, "and my stepdad wants to kill me." She said it the way other kids might say they wanted ice cream. Matter of fact, simple, true. Then she reached in her backpack and pulled out something that made Ryder's blood go cold. A thumb drive wrapped in a pink ribbon with a small note attached. In a child's handwriting, it read, "Mommy said if anything happens, give this to someone brave." Outside, thunder rolled across the desert. The storm was coming. But inside that roadside diner, looking at the little girl with her mother's last wish clutched in her hands, Ryder Kane realized the real storm had already begun. Sally brought hot chocolate without being asked. She set it in front of Lena with a gentleness that made Ryder's throat tight. The girl wrapped both hands around the mug, but didn't drink. "How long you been running?" Ryder asked, sliding into the booth across from her. "Since the funeral," Lena's voice was hollow. "3 days ago. Mommy's funeral." The Hawks pulled chairs closer, forming an unconscious protective circle. "I'm sorry about your mom," Ryder said, and meant it. Lena nodded, staring into the chocolate. "She got sick fast. The doctors said it was her heart, but..." She paused, and something dark flickered across her young face. "Marcus smiled at the funeral. I saw him. When everyone was crying, he smiled." Bull muttered a curse under his breath. "That's when I remembered what Mommy told me." Lena reached for her backpack, pulling it in her lap like a shield. "She gave me this 2 weeks before she died. Made me promise to hide it." She held up the thumb drive again. In the diner's fluorescent light, Ryder could see a small logo etched into the metal, a sharp, angular V with circuit board patterns. Mac's fork clattered against his plate. "That's Vorn Tech," he said, his voice strange. All eyes turned to him. "That's their executive-level encryption drive. Only board members have those." "How do you know?" Bull asked. Mac's jaw worked. "Because I used to work there. Engine division. Before Vorn bought out the company and gutted it for parts," his hands curled into fists. 300 of us laid off in one day. Christmas Eve. He called it operational streamlining. Lena looked at Mac with sudden recognition. "You're the man with the dragon tattoo. Mommy had your picture." The table went silent. "What?" Mac breathed. "In her office. A photo of the old team. She kept it hidden in her desk." Lena's eyes were too wise, too sad. She said Marcus made her fire good people. She cried about it. Said she was sorry. Mac's expression crumbled for just a moment before he hardened again. "Your mom was Helen Vorn." "Helen Park," Lena corrected quietly. "She never changed her name." Marcus didn't like that. Ryder studied the thumb drive, his instincts screaming warnings. "What did your mom say about this?" "She said it was insurance." Lena picked at the ribbon. "She said if anything happened to her, these files would explain everything. She made me memorize a password, but she never told me what was on it." "And Marcus knows you have it," Ryder said. "I think so. He searched my room the night after the funeral. Tore up my stuffed animals, dumped out my books. When I asked what he was looking for, he grabbed my arm. She pushed up her sleeve, revealing finger-shaped bruises, dark against pale skin, and said I took something that belonged to him." Bull stood up so fast his chair scraped the floor. "That son of..." "Easy," Ryder's voice was steel. He looked at Lena. "That's when you ran?" She nodded. I waited until he went to sleep. Took the emergency money Mommy hid in my closet. $67. I was trying to get to my aunt in Nevada, but his car found me at a gas station. I ran into the desert and saw your motorcycles here. Smart kid, Tiny, ironically the shortest of the Hawks, said with admiration. My mommy was smart too. Lena's voice cracked for the first time. She taught me what to do if I was ever in danger. She said, find people with kind eyes. You have kind eyes, Mr. Kane. Ryder had been called many things in his life. Kind wasn't usually one of them. He looked at his crew. Bull, who'd served 2 tours overseas and came back broken until the Brotherhood pieced him together. Mac, who'd lost everything when corporations decided quarterly profits mattered more than people. Tiny, whose sister had been trafficked before they found her. Snake, who never talked about the scars on his back. They were all broken things that learned to be dangerous when they needed to be. And now a 10-year-old girl with bruises and her dead mother's secrets was asking them to be dangerous one more time. We should call the cops, Snake said, but his tone suggested he already knew that wouldn't work. And say what? Mac shot back. That a billionaire is chasing his stepdaughter? He'll have lawyers there in an hour. Show custody papers. Make us look like kidnappers. He's right, Ryder said grimly. Money buys silence. We need to know what's on that drive before we make any moves. Lena's head was drooping, adrenaline finally giving way to exhaustion. She'd probably been running on fear alone for 3 days. Listen up, Ryder said to his crew. We keep her safe tonight. Just tonight. Tomorrow we figure out our next move. And if Warren comes back? Bull asked. Ryder's smile was cold. Then he learns why people don't mess with the Steel Hawks. He turned to Lena, his voice gentling. You can sleep in the back office. It's not fancy, but it's got a couch and a lock on the door. That okay? Lena looked at each of them, these rough men with their leather and scars and motorcycles, and for the first time since crawling under that table, she truly smiled. Thank you, she whispered. As Sally led her to the back, Ryder picked up the thumb drive. It felt heavier than it should. Mac leaned close. Whatever's on there, it scared a dying woman enough to hide it. Yeah, Ryder said, pocketing the drive. And it's worth killing a child for. Outside, the storm finally broke. Rain hammered the diner's roof like bullets. But inside, 5 bikers made a silent promise around a cold cup of coffee and an empty seat. They'd just adopted a war they didn't ask for. And they wouldn't stop until that little girl could smile without fear. Dawn came soft through the clubhouse windows, painting chrome motorcycles in shades of amber and gold. Lena woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone murdering a Johnny Cash song in the kitchen. She sat up on the worn leather couch, momentarily confused, before remembering she was safe. For now. The clubhouse was nothing like Marcus's sterile mansion. Tools hung on pegboard walls. A dartboard with someone's face taped to it. She didn't recognize the man, but he had a lot of darts in his forehead. Photos everywhere. Bikers with their arms around each other. Graduation pictures, a Marine in dress blues, a little girl holding a birthday cake. Family pictures. Morning, kiddo Bull emerged from the kitchen carrying a plate stacked with pancakes. You like chocolate chips? Lena nodded, suddenly starving. She couldn't remember the last real meal she'd had. They ate together at a scarred wooden table that had probably seen 1,000 poker games. Bull didn't hover or ask questions. He just made sure her plate stayed full and her orange juice stayed cold. After breakfast, Lena noticed the grease stains on the concrete floor. Do you have cleaning stuff? Bull blinked. You don't have to. I want to help, she said it firmly. Mommy always said if someone gives you shelter, you give them service. It's about dignity. Something in Bull's expression softened. Your mom sounds like she was something special. She was. So Lena cleaned. She swept around the motorcycles with careful precision, organized tools into their proper places, and even managed to coax the clubhouse dog, a scarred pit bull named Mercy, out from under a workbench. The dog had been wary at first, but Lena sat on the floor and waited, humming the same lullaby her mother used to sing. Eventually, Mercy laid her head in Lena's lap. Well, I'll be damned, Tiny whispered from the doorway. That dog don't trust nobody. She's scared, Lena said simply, scratching behind Mercy's ears. Like me, scared things recognize each other. In Ryder's office, the mood was darker. He'd spent 2 hours breaking through the drive's encryption, easier than expected, like Helen had wanted it to be found. The password Lena provided was simple, Lena Flower 2015, her daughter's name and birth year. A mother's last act of love. Now, staring at the screen, Ryder understood why Helen had been so afraid. Jesus Christ, he muttered. Mac looked up from his own computer where he'd been cross-referencing public records. What did you find? Ryder's jaw was tight. Everything. Financial records going back 5 years. Shell companies, fake charities, payoff ledgers. He clicked through files, each worse than the last. The Vorn Tech Foundation, the one that won humanitarian awards last year, it's a front. 95% of donations go straight into Vorn's pockets. People actually believed he was helping communities? Snake asked. He's good at it. Look, Ryder pulled up a video file. Marcus Vorn appeared on screen, suited and smiling, cutting a ribbon at a new community center. This was in Millbrook, 3 towns over. Remember when a factory shut down? Mac's face went pale. That was Vorn Tech's voluntary closure after the environmental review. Nothing voluntary about it. Ryder opened another file. He forced the closure through bribes to city council. Bought the land for nothing. Flipped it to developers for millions. 30 families lost their income. The community center? He laughed bitterly. Never opened. It's a storage facility now. Bull appeared in the doorway with Lena's drawing in his hand. A crayon picture of motorcycles with wings. His expression was murderous. Tell me you found something we can use. Better, Ryder pulled up a spreadsheet. Worker exploitation records. Helen documented everything. Unpaid overtime, safety violations, illegal firings. She even has recordings. He clicked play. Marcus Vorn's voice filled the room, cold and clinical. I don't care if they're loyal. Loyalty doesn't show up on quarterly reports. Cut the dead weight. If they complain, bury them in legal fees until they shut up or starve. The recording continued. More voices, more deals. Politicians taking bribes. Inspectors looking the other way. Workers blacklisted for trying to unionize. She was building a case, Max said quietly. Helen was trying to take him down from the inside. And he probably killed her for it, Bull growled. Ryder closed his eyes. The pieces fit too perfectly. A healthy woman suddenly dying of a heart attack, right when she was gathering evidence against her husband. He opened another file labeled personal. It was Helen's journal entries, written like letters to her daughter. Lena, my flower, if you're reading this, I'm sorry I couldn't protect you myself. Your stepfather is a dangerous man. I was foolish to think I could change him, could make him see the people he's hurting. I've documented everything. The truth has to matter. Please give this to someone brave enough to fight him. I love you. Always. Mom. The date was 2 weeks before she died. Ryder's hands curled into fists. In the main room, Lena's laughter rang out as Tiny showed her how to polish chrome. She sounded like a normal kid for the first time since they'd met her. Bull, Mac, Snake, and Tiny gathered in the office doorway. They'd all read enough. Seen enough. He destroyed our town, Max said quietly. My family. Our people. And he was going to kill that little girl to cover it up. Not was going to, Snake corrected. Still is. He won't stop looking. Ryder stood, looking at each of his brothers. We could give this to the police. The FBI. Let the system handle it. Could we? Bull challenged. How many judges you think he owns? How many cops? Look at those files. He's got senators in his pocket. Silence. Or, Ryder said slowly, we handle it ourselves. Old school. Not with fists, with his own weapons. Information. Reputation. We tear down his empire piece by piece until there's nothing left for him to hide behind. That's not just protecting Lena, Tiny said. That's going to war. Yeah. Ryder looked toward the main room, where a little girl was learning to trust again. It is. Show of hands. Who's in? 5 hands rose without hesitation. Then we ride, Ryder said, for Helen, for every worker he crushed, and for the kid out there who deserves a world where monsters don't win. Outside, morning sun glinted off chrome. The Steelhawks had just declared war on a billionaire, and they were going to win. The plan came together over truck stop coffee and stolen Wi-Fi. Vorn Tech has 3 weak points, Ryder explained, spreading papers across Mama Joe's diner booth. PR, logistics, and legacy investors. We had all 3 simultaneously. Mama Joe herself, a steel-haired woman who'd fed bikers and outlaws for 30 years, refilled their cups. You boys need anything, you ask. That little girl's got a home here long as she needs 1 inch. In the corner booth, Lena practiced her handwriting with crayons, Mercy's head resting on her feet. She'd been with them for 3 days now, and color was finally returning to her cheeks. Mac, you still got contacts in the trucking union? Ryder asked. Yeah, my cousin runs a fleet out of Phoenix, Mac grinned. Vorn Tech uses independent contractors to ship their eco-friendly products. He won't know me with a beard and a trucker cap. Good. Get hired, document everything. I want photos of what's really in those trucks, Ryder turned to Snake. You worked construction before the club? 10 years. I can swing a hammer and keep my mouth shut. Vorn Tech is building a new facility outside Carson City. Worker complaints are already piling up. Unpaid wages, no safety equipment. Get on that crew. Record everything. Bull cracked his knuckles. What about me? You're staying here. You and Tiny are Lena's primary protection. Ryder's tone left no room for argument. If Vorn tracks are here, you're the wall. Bull nodded, satisfied with his assignment. And you? Tiny asked Ryder. Ryder smiled coldly. I'm going hunting. Vorn's got a PR team that spins every story. Time to give them something they can't spin. 2 weeks later, the cracks started showing. Mac, now sporting a thick beard and going by Miguel, was hauling his 3rd shipment for Vorn Tech Logistics. The manifest said recycled solar panels. What was actually in the truck made him sick. He pulled into a rest stop and called Ryder using a burner phone. You're not going to believe this, Max said. The eco-friendly panels? They're cheap knockoffs made in sweatshops. Half of them don't even work. He's dumping real e-waste in landfills and claiming tax credits for recycling. Can you prove it? Brother, I've got photos, shipping manifests, and a supervisor who just told me to keep my mouth shut if I want to keep getting paid. Mac's voice hardened. There's more. Workers on loading docks? Making $6 an hour under the table. No benefits. No protection. Mostly immigrants too scared to complain. Send everything to the encrypted folder. Good work. 3 states away, Snake was documenting something even worse. The Carson City construction site was a disaster waiting to happen. No scaffolding. Electrical work done by untrained laborers. Safety inspections that were clearly fabricated. Snake recognized the inspector's signature from Helen's files. The man was on Vorn's payroll. Hey, new guy, the foreman shouted at Snake. Quit standing around. Those support beams aren't going to install themselves. Snake looked at the beams, substandard steel, obvious even to his eye. These aren't up to code. Code, the foreman laughed. We're 3 weeks behind schedule. Mr. Vorn doesn't pay for overtime, so we use what we got. You got a problem with that. There's 50 guys waiting for your job. Snake didn't argue. He just made sure his body cam caught everything. That night, an anonymous tip reached the county building inspector, the one who wasn't bought. By morning, the site was shut down pending investigation. Meanwhile, Ryder was playing a different game. He'd spent 2 weeks befriending Vorn Tech's PR director at a gym in downtown Phoenix. The guy, Brad, with his protein shakes and desperate need for validation, loved talking about his important clients. Vorn's a genius, Brad said, bench pressing weights he could barely handle. We've got him lined up for the Humanitarian CEO Award next month. Major media coverage. Sound impressive, Ryder said, spotting him. What's he done to earn it? The Vorn Tech Foundation. We've positioned him as this Robin Hood figure, taking from his own fortune to help struggling communities. Brad grunted through another rep. Between you and me, The actual charity work is minimal, but perception is reality, you know? Ryder smiled. Perception is reality. I like that. 2 days later, an investigative journalist received an anonymous package. Financial records showing the Vorntech Foundation was a shell game, with detailed analysis of where the money really went. Not to communities, not to workers, straight into offshore accounts. The article went viral within hours. Humanitarian hero or corporate con? Inside Vorntech's charity fraud. Back at Mama Joe's, Lena was creating something precious. She'd taken over a corner booth, spreading out papers covered in her careful handwriting. Notes to Ryder and the others, delivered by Mama Joe whenever they checked in. Dear Mr. Kane, please be safe today. Mama Joe taught me to make pancakes. I made extra for when you come back. Love, Lena. Dear Mac, Mercy learned a new trick. She can shake hands. Do you think your cousin's trucks have dogs? Dogs make everything better. Stay hidden, Lena. Dear Bull, thank you for teaching me how to play chess. I practiced with Tiny, and I almost won. You said smart people win wars, not strong people. I hope I'm smart enough to help. Love, Lena. Bull kept every note in his vest pocket, reading them when he thought no one was watching. Tiny caught him once, smirking, getting soft, old man. Shut up, Bull muttered, but he was smiling. The truth was, Lena had become something none of them expected. Hope. Every time they wanted to quit, to walk away from the danger, they'd think of her practicing her handwriting, feeding Mercy scraps under the table, laughing at Tiny's terrible jokes. She reminded them what they were fighting for wasn't just revenge. It was the radical idea that innocence deserved protection, that monsters should face consequences, that a little girl should grow up without fear. In his penthouse office, Marcus Vorn stared at the news alerts flooding his phone. Stock prices dropping, investors requesting meetings, journalists asking uncomfortable questions, construction sites shut down, shipping contracts canceled. His empire, so carefully constructed, was developing fissures. And somewhere out there, his stepdaughter was still alive, still holding the evidence that could destroy him completely. He pressed the intercom. Gimme Garrett. Garrett, his head of security, former military, no conscience, appeared within minutes. Find the girl, Vorn said quietly. I don't care what it costs. Find her and eliminate anyone protecting her. The hunt was escalating. But so was the resistance. The first safe house burned on a Tuesday. It was an old farmhouse 20 miles outside Flagstaff, owned by a retired hawk named Dutch. Lena had been there only 6 hours when Bull spotted the black SUVs rolling up the dirt road. Move. Now. Bull scooped Lena up like she weighed nothing, Mercy barking at his heels. Tiny was already firing up his bike out back. They escaped through the kitchen door seconds before Garrett's men kicked in the front. Bull heard the crash of splintering wood as Tiny's motorcycle roared into the desert scrub. Lena pressed between them, her small arms wrapped tight around Bull's waist. Behind them, flames consumed the farmhouse. Bourne's message was clear. No shelter would be safe. Ryder got the call while monitoring a stakeout in Phoenix. His blood went cold. They found her. Bull's voice was tight. We're heading to the backup location in Sedona. Boss, they're not trying to take her anymore. They try to burn us alive. Stay mobile. I'm coming to you. But Ryder's hand shook as he ended the call. The game had changed. Vorn wasn't just protecting his secrets anymore. He was hunting with lethal intent. The next 3 weeks became a blur of motion. Lena learned to sleep in moving vehicles, to pack her bag in 30 seconds, to never ask, how much longer? She grew thinner, quieter, the spark in her eyes dimming with each narrow escape. They moved her between 12 different locations. Sympathetic truck stops, biker clubhouses scattered across 3 states. An old church basement where the pastor asked no questions. Each time, they stayed ahead of Vorn's security teams by hours, sometimes only minutes. In Carson City, Snake barely escaped a confrontation when two of Garrett's men showed up asking construction workers about suspicious activity. He'd been forced to abandon his cover entirely, racing away on a borrowed bike with his documentation equipment. Mac's trucking gig ended when Vorn Tech started running background checks on all contracted drivers. Someone had tipped them off. He managed to dump his final load of evidence at a journalist's office before disappearing back into the Hawks network. The walls were closing in. Stock prices told the story Vorn didn't want anyone to read. Vorn Tech Industries had dropped 37% in 3 weeks. Major investors were demanding emergency board meetings. The humanitarian award had been postponed indefinitely. Every news cycle brought fresh allegations: labor violations, environmental fraud, charity embezzlement. In his office, Vorn stood at the window, watching the city lights blur below. His reflection looked haggard. He'd stopped sleeping properly, surviving on pills and fury. "She's just a child," his lawyer had said during their last meeting. "Let it go, Marcus. Take the hit, restructure, move on." But Vorn couldn't let it go, because it wasn't about the money anymore. It was about control, about the fact that a 10-year-old girl and a gang of bikers were dismantling everything he'd built. Helen had done this. Even from the grave, his weak, sentimental wife was destroying him. She'd turned their daughter into a weapon and placed her in the hands of criminals. "Sir," Garrett appeared in the doorway. "We've tracked them to northern Arizona. Small diner called Mama Joe's. Our informant says the girl's been spotted there multiple times." Vorn's smile was arctic. "Then we end this. Tonight." At Mama Joe's, Lena sat in the back office, drawing with crayons that were worn down to nubs. She'd drawn the same picture 12 times now. A little girl on a motorcycle with wings, flying away from a dark building that looked like a prison. Ryder found her there, her small shoulders hunched with exhaustion. "Hey, kiddo." He sat down carefully, the old chair creaking. "You doing okay?" Lena didn't look up. "Are we leaving again soon?" "Probably. We're working on something more permanent, but you don't have to lie." Her voice was steady, too steady. "I know we're running out of places to hide. I heard Bull talking to Tiny. They're getting closer every time." Ryder's chest tightened. She was too young to carry this weight, but she'd been forced to grow up fast. "Lena, look at me." She did, and he saw it. The fear she'd been hiding behind her politeness and helpfulness. The terror of a child who knew death was hunting her. "You've got more courage than most men I've known," Ryder said quietly. "Grown men who've seen war and violence. You're 10 years old, and you've been braver than all of them." Lena's eyes filled with tears. "I don't feel brave. I feel scared all the time. I miss my mommy. I want this to be over." "I know, sweetheart. I know. Why are you doing this?" The question came out small, broken. "You don't know me. I'm nobody special. You could just give me to the police and go back to your normal life." Ryder reached out, gently tilting her chin up. "You want to know the truth? Because you're nicer than most grown-ups I've met. Because you thanked us for lying to your stepdad. Because you clean clubhouses and write notes and taught Mercy to trust again." His voice roughened. "Because if we can't protect one good kid from a monster, then what the hell are we even doing on this planet?" A tear rolled down Lena's cheek. "You really mean that?" Every word. She launched herself at him, arms wrapping around his neck in a fierce hug. Ryder held her while she cried, really cried, for the first time since that night in the diner. "We're going to win this," he promised into her hair. "I swear to you, Lena, you're going to be free." She nodded against his chest, wanting desperately to believe him. In the main diner, Mama Joe's phone rang. She answered, listened, and her face went pale. "Ryder," she burst into the office. "That was my nephew at the sheriff's office. Black SUVs just rolled into town. 8 of them. They're asking questions, showing photos of Lena." Ryder was on his feet instantly. "How long?" 10 minutes. Maybe less. Lena's face went white, but she didn't scream. She just grabbed her backpack, always packed, always ready, and took Ryder's hand. "I'm ready," she whispered. Outside, engines roared to life. The Steel Hawks mounted their bikes in formation, Mercy jumping into Bull's sidecar. But this time, they weren't running. This time, Ryder had a plan. Everyone remembers their part, he asked over the radio. Acknowledgements crackled back. Then let's end this. One way or another, tonight we finish it. As headlights appeared on the horizon, the Hawks rode toward the confrontation they'd been preparing for. The war was about to reach its final battle. The SUVs surrounded Mama Joe's diner like wolves circling prey. Garrett stepped out first, flanked by 8 men in tactical gear. Through the diner's windows, he could see the bikers inside, sitting calmly at their tables. Too calmly. Something felt wrong. Spread out, Garrett ordered. Remember, we need the girl alive, but the bikers are expendable. His men moved into position. Garrett approached the front door, hand resting on his concealed weapon. The bell chimed as he entered. 5 bikers sat at the counter, coffee cups steaming. The big one, Bull, didn't even turn around. Help you? Mama Joe asked, her voice desert dry. We're looking for someone, Garrett said. A little girl, 10 years old. We have reliable information she's been here. Lots of people come through, Mama Joe replied. Can't say I remember every kid. Garrett's jaw tightened. He nodded to his men, who fanned out, checking booths and back rooms. Ryder Kane sat at the corner table, completely relaxed, reading a newspaper like he had all the time in the world. You're making a mistake, Garrett said directly to Ryder. Interfering with family matters. Mr. Vorn just wants his daughter back safely. Ryder looked up, smiled. That's so? Tell me something. Does family usually send tactical teams to retrieve lost kids? Where is she? Who? Garrett moved faster than expected, slamming his hand on Ryder's table. Don't play games. We know she's been here. We have witnesses. Photos. You've been moving her around for weeks. Sounds exhausting, Ryder said mildly. Want some coffee? That's when Garrett noticed it. Every biker in the diner was checking their watches. Synchronized. What? 3, 2, 1-inch Bull counted down. 300 miles away, in downtown Phoenix, Marcus Vorn stood at a podium in the grand ballroom of the Phoenician Resort. 250 people filled the room. Investors, journalists, politicians, business leaders. This gala was supposed to be his redemption, a night celebrating Vorntecha's commitment to sustainable innovation and announcing a major new charitable initiative. His PR team had spent weeks arranging it. Thank you all for coming, Vorn said, his smile practiced and perfect. Tonight represents not just Vorntecha's future, but our promise to. The lights dimmed. The massive presentation screen behind him flickered. Vorn frowned, turning. Technical difficulties, he said smoothly. Just one moment, but the screen didn't go dark. Instead, it blazed alive with a video. Helen Vorn appeared on screen, sitting in her home office. The timestamp read 2 weeks before her death. My name is Helen Park Vorn. Her recorded voice filled the ballroom. And I'm making this video because I believe my husband, Marcus Vorn, is going to kill me. The room erupted in gasps. Vorn's face went bloodless. Turn it off. Someone turn it off. But the AV system had been completely hijacked. The screen cut to financial documents, spreadsheets, bank transfers, all of Helen's carefully documented evidence scrolling past while her voice continued. For 3 years, I've watched my husband destroy lives for profit. The Vorntech Foundation is a fraud. 95% of charitable donations are funneled into offshore accounts. The sustainable products are manufactured in illegal labor camps. Images appeared, grainy photos of warehouse facilities where workers, including children, assembled electronics in dangerous conditions. Timestamps, locations, shipping manifests, all meticulously documented. Marcus has bribed inspectors, silenced whistleblowers, and destroyed communities for quarterly gains. I tried to leave him. I tried to expose him legally. But he has too much power, too many people in his pocket. The video cut to audio recordings. Vorn's own voice played over the speakers. I don't care about safety regulations. I care about margins. If workers die, we settle quietly. It's cheaper than compliance. Another voice, a politician. The inspection will show whatever you need it to show, Marcus. Just make sure the donation clears before. More recordings. More evidence. A cascading avalanche of corruption, fraud, labor exploitation, environmental crimes. Then Ryder Kane's voice took over the audio, calm and unwavering. Marcus Vorn, you built an empire on the backs of broken people. You crushed families, destroyed towns, and when your own wife tried to stop you, you murdered her. You stole from widows. You exploited children. You locked your own stepdaughter in fear. The screen showed Lena's bruised arm, photographed at the diner. Then footage of the burned farmhouse. Evidence of Garrett's pursuit. The people you stepped on are taking back their road. This ends now. In the ballroom, chaos erupted. Investors rushed for exits. Journalists frantically typed on phones. Flash photography exploded as news cameras captured Vorn's expression. Shock, rage, and something that looked like fear. This is fabricated, Vorn shouted. Lies. All of it. But a SEC investigator in the crowd was already making calls. An FBI agent was requesting backup. The Phoenix chief of police, who'd been at the gala as a guest, was moving toward the stage with handcuffs ready. The presentation ended with a single message in white text on black. The road belongs to the honest. Back at Mama Joe's, Garrett's phone exploded with notifications. He read the alerts, his face going from angry to pale. It's over, Ryder said, standing. By morning, your boss will be broke, disgraced, and probably under indictment. The girl you were hunting? She's somewhere safe. Somewhere you'll never find her. You don't understand what you've done, Garrett said. Oh, I understand perfectly. Ryder's smile was sharp. We destroyed a monster. Now the question is, do you work for a paycheck or a cause? Because that paycheck just evaporated. Garrett looked at his men, then at his phone. More alerts. Vorn Tech stock suspended from trading. Board members resigning. Criminal investigations announced. Bank accounts frozen. He'd been in enough wars to know when a battle was lost. Stand down, he told his team quietly. As the SUVs pulled away, Bull clapped Ryder on the shoulder. Where's she really? Ryder smiled. Exactly where we said. Safe. In a small cabin in northern Montana, Lena sat between Mac and Snake, watching the news coverage on an old television. She saw Marcus being led away by federal agents. Saw protesters outside Vorn Tech headquarters. Saw her mother's face on screen as journalists called Helen Park Vorn a hero and whistleblower. Your mommy did good, Max said gently. Lena nodded, tears streaming down her face. Not from sadness this time. From relief. Can I go home now? She whispered. Yeah, kiddo, Snake said. We're taking you home. The empire had fallen. The girl was free. 6 weeks after Marcus Vorn's arrest, the Steelhawks clubhouse looked different. Sunlight streamed through new windows. The old ones had been cracked for years. Fresh paint covered the walls, chosen by committee. Desert sunset orange because Lena said it felt warm. Along one entire wall, carefully pinned and framed, hung dozens of crayon drawings. Motorcycles with wings. Angels riding choppers. A little girl holding hands with 5 bikers, all of them smiling. In the corner, Mercy dozed in a new dog bed that said Queen in glittery letters. Lena had insisted. You sure about this? Bull asked, watching Ryder work in the garage. Ryder didn't look up from his welding. Sparks flew as he attached the final piece. I promised her, didn't I? What he was building made Bull grin despite himself. A miniature motorcycle, custom-built to Lena's size. The frame was painted silver, not chrome, but close enough, with tiny purple flames along the sides, because Lena said purple was her mom's favorite color. She's in a loser mind, Tiny said, polishing the little handlebars. That's the idea. Ryder stepped back, examining his work. It wasn't just a toy. The engine was real, though governed to safe speeds. The suspension was professional grade. Every bolt had been checked 3 times. Because Lena deserved something built with love. The garage door rolled open. Mama Joe stood there with Lena, who'd been helping make lunch, which mostly meant sneaking bacon to Mercy. "Someone here to see you boys," Mama Joe announced, winking. Lena walked in, froze, and her eyes went impossibly wide. "Is that?" Her voice came out as a whisper. "All yours," Ryder said. "If you want it." She approached the bike like it might disappear if she moved too fast. Her small hand touched the seat, traced the painted flames, rang the little bell attached to the handlebars. "It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen," she breathed. "Read the side," Mac urged. Along the gas tank, in elegant silver script, were 2 words, Chrome Wings. "We're naming it after your drawing," Ryder explained. "The one you made that first week. Remember? The motorcycle with wings." Lena's eyes filled with tears, but she was smiling. "Can I really ride it?" "That's the plan. But first," Bull held up a small helmet, custom painted to match the bike. "Safety first. Your mommy would want that." She took the helmet reverently, running her fingers over the purple flames. Inside, written in permanent marker, were 5 signatures: Ryder, Bull, Mac, Snake, and Tiny. "We're always riding with you," Tiny said gruffly, "even when we're not there." Lena hugged the helmet to her chest, then surprised them all by launching herself at Ryder. He caught her easily, this little girl who'd crawled under his table in terror and was now laughing through happy tears. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything. You earned it, kiddo. You saved yourself. We just help you run faster." The test ride happened on a Saturday, with half the Hawks chapter watching. Lena wore her helmet, her purple jacket, and determination. Ryder rode beside her on his own bike, never more than 10 feet away. Her little engine purred, not roared, but sang, as she navigated the empty parking lot. When she successfully completed her first circle, the bikers erupted in cheers. "Again!" Lena shouted, her grin visible even through the helmet visor. "I want to go again." They spent 3 hours there, Lena growing more confident with each pass. By the end, she was waving at her audience, one hand on the handlebars, completely fearless. Bull wiped his eyes. "Damn allergies." "Sure, old man," Snake teased. "Allergies." But they all felt it, the joy of watching a terrified child transform into a laughing, free kid who deserved this happiness. That night, around the clubhouse table, the conversation turned serious. "We got 700,000 in donations," Mac reported, scrolling through his laptop. People from all over the country sending money after they heard Lena's story. "They want to help." "Help what?" Lena asked from her spot on the couch, Mercy's head in her lap. Ryder looked at her thoughtfully. "That's what we need to figure out. We've got resources now, a chance to do something that matters. What do you think we should do with it?" Lena was quiet for a moment, her young face serious. "There are other kids like me, kids who are scared, who don't have anyone to help them." "Go on," Ryder encouraged. "Maybe we can help them, give them a safe place, teach them things like you taught me." Her voice grew stronger. "Mommy always said the best way to honor people who help you is to help other people." The bikers exchanged glances. "A foundation," Max said slowly, "for at-risk kids. Job training, mentorship, emergency shelter. Education support," Tiny added. "Help them finish school. Life skills," Bull said. "Teach them to stand on their own feet." "Chrome Wings Foundation," Snake said, and everyone went quiet. Lena looked up, eyes shining. "Really? You'd name it after my bike?" "After your dream," Ryder corrected. "Wings mean freedom. Chrome means strength. Kids need both." Within a week, the paperwork was filed. The Chrome Wings Foundation became official, with a mission statement written partly by lawyers and partly by a 10-year-old girl who knew what it meant to need saving. Providing wings to those who've forgotten they can fly. Lena became the honorary founder, a title she took seriously. She attended meetings, helped design the logo, a motorcycle with angel wings, and insisted on interviewing potential staff. "Do you like kids?" she'd ask, scrutinizing them. And, I mean really like them, not just pretend for work. Her instincts were sharp. Anyone who patronized her was rejected immediately. The local news ran a story, 10-year-old whistleblower starts foundation to help at-risk youth. The reporter asked Lena what she wanted to say to other scared kids out there. Lena looked directly into the camera, no fear in her eyes. Find someone with kind eyes, she said. And don't give up. You're stronger than you think. 2 months after Chrome Wings launched, they helped their first child, a teenage boy who'd aged out of foster care with nowhere to go. Mac hired him as a mechanic apprentice. Then a girl fleeing domestic violence. Then siblings whose parents were incarcerated. Then more. Each one received what Lena had received. Safety, skills, family. The clubhouse transformed. Half remained biker headquarters. The other half became classrooms, counseling rooms, and a commercial kitchen where Mama Joe taught cooking classes. On the main wall, Lena's drawings multiplied. Each kid who came through added their own, until chrome-winged motorcycles covered every surface. We built something good, Bull said one evening, watching Lena teach a younger child how to properly clean a motorcycle chain. No, rider corrected, smiling. She built something good. We just gave her the tools. And in the garage, gleaming under fluorescent lights, Chrome Wings waited for its next ride. Ready to fly. Spring arrived in Arizona with wildflowers and second chances. On a Saturday morning, 8 months after a terrified girl crawled under a biker's table, the Steelhawks prepared for their annual memorial ride. This year was different. This year, they weren't riding alone. Lena stood in the garage, adjusting her helmet, the purple one with flames that she'd nearly outgrown. She'd shot up 3 inches, and Mama Joe said she'd need new jeans soon. Her face had filled out, the hollow-cheeked fear replaced by freckles and confidence. Ready? Ryder asked, checking Chrome Wings one final time. Born ready, Lena replied, and the bikers laughed. She'd picked up their phrases, their swagger. But beneath it, she was still soft-hearted, still the girl who left water bowls for stray dogs and wrote thank-you notes for everything. Where are we going? She asked, mounting her bike with practiced ease. Somewhere special, Ryder said. Trust me. She nodded without hesitation. That alone showed how far they'd come. The convoy rolled out at noon. 15 motorcycles, engines thundering in harmony. Lena rode between Ryder and Mama Joe's husband, Big Pete, her little silver bike holding its own. She'd practiced for months, and now she handled Chrome Wings like she was born to it. They rode through desert highways where saguaro cacti stood like sentinels. Past the diner where this story began, Sally waved from the window, and Lena waved back enthusiastically. Through small towns where people recognized the Steelhawks patches and honked in support. The Chrome Wings Foundation had changed the Hawks' reputation. They weren't just outlaws anymore. They were protectors, builders, family. At a rest stop, Bull bought Lena a snow cone, blue raspberry, her favorite. She sat on a picnic table, legs swinging, while Tiny showed her photos on his phone. That's Marcus, he said carefully. Lena looked at the image, her former stepfather in an orange jumpsuit, being led into a courthouse. The trial had been brief. With Helen's evidence and the Hawks' additional documentation, the prosecution's case was airtight. Fraud, labor exploitation, tax evasion, conspiracy. The list went on. He'd received 42 years. Do you feel bad for him? Tiny asked gently. Lena considered this seriously. I feel bad for the person he could have been. Mommy said he wasn't always mean. That something broke inside him. She licked her snow cone thoughtfully. But I'm glad he can't hurt anyone anymore. Wisdom beyond her years. Your mom would be proud of you, Tiny said. I know, Lena smiled. I talk to her sometimes. In my head, I tell her about Chrome Wings and the kids we're helping, and how Mercy learned to catch frisbees. I think she hears me. I think so too, kiddo. The real destination revealed itself as the sun began its descent. They arrived at a desert overlook, a place where the highway stretched to infinity and the sky painted itself in oranges, purples, and gold. Someone had set up a small memorial, flowers, photos, a bronze plaque. The plaque read, Helen Parkthorne, Mother, Whistleblower, Hero, She gave everything so others could be free. Lena dismounted slowly, approaching the memorial. Ryder had commissioned it months ago, working with Lena to choose the words. This was Helen's true resting place. Not some fancy cemetery Marcus had chosen, but here, in the desert, where the road meant freedom. Mummy, Lena whispered, nodding. I brought my friends, the ones I told you about. The bikers hung back respectfully, giving her space. I did what you asked. I found brave people. They helped me stop Marcus, and now we're helping other kids. Just like you wanted, her voice wavered. I miss you so much, but I'm okay now. You promise I am okay. She placed fresh wildflowers at the memorial, purple and yellow, Helen's favorites. When she returned to the group, her eyes were wet, but she was smiling. Can we ride the highway? Like you promised? All of us together. That's the plan, Ryder said. They mounted up. 15 motorcycles and one little silver bike formed a line. As the sun touched the horizon, they accelerated. The highway opened before them, empty and endless. Lena's laughter rang out, pure and joyful, as chrome wings carried her forward. The wind caught her hair beneath the helmet. Her hands were steady on the handlebars. She was flying. Ryder glanced in his mirror and saw her there, no longer the terrified child hiding under a table, but a girl who'd found her wings and learned to use them. We didn't set out to tear down a billionaire, Ryder thought, the words forming in his mind like a prayer. We set out to protect one little girl. But in protecting her, we protected hundreds more. We didn't just destroy an empire. We built a home for a kid who reminded us what mercy looks like. She taught us that courage isn't about being unafraid. It's about being terrified and moving forward anyway. That family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when you're hiding under tables. That the smallest person can change everything if the right people believe in them. The convoy rode into the sunset, a brotherhood and one little girl, all roaring down the open road together. Mercy barked from Bull's sidecar. Tiny's laugh boomed over the engine noise. Mama Joe and Big Pete rode side by side, hands briefly touching. And Lena, precious, brave, beautiful Lena, rode among them, finally safe, finally home. 3 years later, the Vorntech Industries building stood abandoned on the outskirts of Phoenix, windows broken, grounds overgrown. Corporate scavengers had stripped it of anything valuable. Nature was reclaiming the rest. But on one wall, visible from the highway, someone had painted something. Fresh paint, applied recently, maintained regularly by unknown artists. In letters 10 feet tall, colored chrome silver with purple flames. The road belongs to the honest. And beneath it, smaller, but no less powerful. Chrome Wings Foundation, giving flight to the grounded. Drivers passing by would see it and remember. A little girl who stood up to a monster. Bikers who chose protection over profit. A mother who documented truth even knowing it would cost her everything. They'd remember that empires built on lies eventually crumble. That mercy matters. That sometimes the most unlikely heroes wear leather and ride motorcycles. And that every child deserves someone with kind eyes who will fight for them, even when the world says to look away. The road belonged to the honest now, and it always would.